All right, what's up, everybody? We're back for another live stream here. As we went back to back now, we went live stream WrestleMania 40 Night 2 last night. Now, the Raw after WrestleMania officially in the books, and we now know some of the things that we have in store moving forward on the Raw side. We'll wait to find out this week on SmackDown what we're going to get on the SmackDown side. They did tease Cody, of course, being there, Bayley as well, but we know the Triple H got something cooking on SmackDown, too, as he brought out some surprises tonight, as we would have expected. But we'll let you guys hop on in here and give me your thoughts as you come in on the Raw after WrestleMania. Did this feel more like a Raw after WrestleMania than we were used to maybe over the past several years? That didn't really hit that level, but you had some stuff on this card, I think, that absolutely, delivered and gave you some stuff to be excited about moving forward. So, great opening segment, which I know we'll talk a lot about once everyone starts to hop in here. What was the mysterious gift that The Rock gave to Cody? I've seen a lot of people debating that as well here as we move forward towards what we think is pretty clearly going to be a match between Cody and The Rock, as we've teased for a while now, thinking that could happen at SummerSlam. So we'll find out if that's the case, but they set it up pretty well, didn't they? About The Rock making it about as clear as possible that he's going to come for that title. I'm not sure why Cody handed him the title. Come on, Cody. Don't let him touch your title that soon into your reign here. But it's okay. CM Punk calls Drew again. The main event, Jey Uso gets the win, and he is now the number one contender for the title, for the world title. So, that was an interesting twist, but I thought either they're going to have McIntyre win or, you just maybe put McIntyre immediately back into that spot with Priest, but it makes more sense to go with, the babyface guy here and give Jey a shot to, see what happens. Because I know definitely, probably, as we all talked about, right, coming out of the WrestleMania match between Jey and Jimmy, there's a lot of disappointment, I think, for people out there. And so to give Jey kind of a spot to really make people forget about that, not the worst idea, right? So, I thought that was fine. Now you see what they're able to put together for Jey, because now we know he's getting a title shot. So good for Jey, and we'll find out what happens. Hey, good to see you again, Juan. Yep, he joined up there on the show last night, and hopefully we get a lot of people jumping back in here. Probably won't have the buzz necessarily that we had after WrestleMania 40 Night 2, but hey, there's still a lot of people that were curious to see what happens now as we start the road to Backlash, which will be here before you know it. So, I thought they set up some pretty good stuff tonight, and we'll go over some of that here shortly. We can start with kind of the bigger stuff on the show. Again, if you're watching these are pretty much just reaction for you guys. Like, I just enjoy talking wrestling with you guys, and so I'm not going to do your traditional review of every single thing that happened on the show. This is just more of a, hey, let's react to what we saw with certain things, and let's have a fun discussion about it. So, do I think Jay's going to win the title? I don't. I just feel like, I'm curious to see what they do now, because you do have like this element with Drew where, like they've got to get to Drew and Punk at some point whenever Punk's ready to come back, and I think that's got to be for the title. So somehow they're going to get this championship on Drew, and it's just a matter of when they're going to do it. But I don't think Jey gets the run before that. I feel like it's a tough task for Jey to probably be the world champ at this point. Could they do like the one-time thing? I don't know if they want to go that route where you give him the title, maybe lose it the week later, or even the same night or something, like the Triple H Jericho thing from back in the day. But I don't think so. I feel like you'll have McIntyre somehow probably get in the way or something like that. But I'm curious to see kind of what storyline they set in motion here. And how does Jimmy factor into this too? That's something else to consider. I think Jimmy, here you go. So we got right on cue. Yeah, I think Jimmy gets involved somehow. Like, I feel like you've got to pick that back up, because let's remember too, right? It's like Jey just speared his brother off of the stage onto whatever it was, the tables or whatever. So I feel like Jimmy has got to somehow probably be involved in this. And if Jimmy calls Jey again, then it's like, do you just keep this story going and going and going? Because maybe they want to have another match just because they felt like that one was a little disappointing to people. So maybe they want to get that one kind of out of their system a little bit and try another one. But we'll find out. So I think that's I think Jimmy's cost him so many times, right? And so you could definitely see that playing into things again. So, yeah, the Cody era officially begun tonight. And look, I mean, we really find out, I think, what's next for Cody on Friday on SmackDown. But tonight, we kind of got what we expected. You knew The Rock was getting ready to go away. Go ahead and get it out of the way right now. Let people know that you're going to do the Cody versus Rock match. They made it as clear as they could possibly make it without announcing the match officially. So, yeah, The Rock is coming after Cody Rhodes. That's it, Anthony. Like, absolutely, he's coming after him. And he wants that belt. Rock put it on his shoulder for a reason. He wants that visual of seeing everybody seeing him with the title on his shoulder. And my stance has not changed on this. I think it's SummerSlam makes the most sense. They're doing that in Cleveland, and I feel like that's where you do it, because you can't wait on that match, I think, a full year, right? Because our expectation is that you're going to do Rock and Cody first, and then you're going to do Rock and Reigns whenever that happens, and I think that's the order still. I probably wouldn't change that based on anything we saw over the past 3 days. I think the order would still be you do Rock and Cody first at SummerSlam, you do Rock and Reigns next year at WrestleMania, if that's kind of how it plays out. And I do think, you're bringing it up, Anthony, I think that's the thing, right? I think that's where Reigns gets involved to somehow cost The Rock, maybe, which is a weird dynamic we've talked about. It's like if Reigns cost The Rock the title against Cody, who beat Reigns for the championship, like you did think about this too early in that segment. You had Cody sort of acknowledging Roman Reigns, pun intended, right? That they really put over wanting people to cheer Reigns tonight. And I think that's important, because that is going to tell us all we need to know, which you guys know if you were watching the streams the last couple nights. I said, I think that's it. I mean, The Rock is fully into this heel stuff. You're not going to change anything with The Rock. It wouldn't make any sense to do that. And I think when Roman comes back, you give him this little send-off, kind of subtle stuff to make people cheer for him. Thank you, Roman. All this other Cody acknowledging him, his reign, Triple H doing the same thing. So you want to kind of plant that seed for people to cheer Roman when he comes back. And so I think that's the place to do it. He makes that surprise return, and whatever happens with the bloodline until then, I think is what gets interesting. But we'll find out. But Roman is going to take some time off, Chris. That's for sure. I think Roman's definitely going away for a bit. I don't know what happens on Friday, though. Like The Rock came out tonight unannounced, so you didn't know for sure how this was going to play out. But I think that I wouldn't be surprised if we see Roman before he goes away, just like we kind of saw with The Rock. But Friday's going to be interesting, because I think they're cooking up something for SmackDown. There's no doubt, because you're taking Cody over there. We've still got to figure out what's going on with the bloodline. You guys saw the video I did this afternoon, actually. I did a couple today. The one this morning about, obviously, they're teasing the big storyline for Roman. Triple H called it a mind-blowing sort of development with his next story. And I said, if you look at what Solo did to Roman in that match last night, like Solo's really challenging Roman now. So we're about to get that split. It's just I'm not sure how they do it, which is the fun part, right? It's the unpredictability of how they're going to do this thing. So, I think we definitely have to tune in on Friday for SmackDown to figure out that too. And, oh, by the way, before I forget, I'll get to some other comments here shortly, but that documentary they're teasing, when is that? Wednesday, I think they're doing it on YouTube, sort of the behind the scenes of WrestleMania 40, and sort of talking about all the things that went into this whole chaotic build. And by the way, guys, just as a note, I say this in every stream, but I do get the little notification, like when my internet starts to go out and it says your internet is unstable. So if it starts getting blurry, just give it a second. It'll come back into clear picture soon. But Kevin, by the way, I see your comment here. We're going to talk about that in a second. What did The Rock give Cody? We're going to come back to that shortly. But the documentary should be very interesting that they're going to do on YouTube, because they really are leaning into that whole pivot that they made on this story. And so I'm curious to see what they do there. We might even do kind of a full review of that here on the channel probably. So I'm curious to see how that goes. I'm glad they're leaning into stuff like that. Like, don't deny it. Just say, sure, this was something where we had something else to begin with, and we decided to pivot to what has definitely been something better now with everything that's happened. So, that's what we're going to get. We're going to get The Rock and Cody for the Undisputed Champion. You got the People's Champ versus the Undisputed Champ. I liked Cody using the line there. He went from undesirable to undeniable to undisputed. That's a great little play on words there. So, I'm with you, Aquarius King. I think Roman's going to cost The Rock. That's how you got to play it. And now we just wait to see how that split sort of happens. Because, I mean, we fully don't expect The Rock on SmackDown now. So I'm curious to see how they do it. Maybe it is just kind of, the bloodline overflowing or overthrowing Roman somehow. But I don't know. I think they got a lot to work with here. We'll see how they do it. But just a quick one here. I think Roman will ever win another title. I do. I think he will. I think we got to remember too. Like, I think there's a chance you could still, do that with Roman, even if it's a short-term thing. He's never going to have another 4-year run or anything, right? But I think that there is a chance you're still going to give Roman a shot at winning another championship. Although you could also say, too, the pushback on that is anything he wins is never going to rival this run that he just had. So do you even want to put him in that position? I think there's still a possibility. He's got a lot of big matches left, even though they may not be frequent. Keep in mind, Roman, I think, still has... he's still, compared to some of the other guys that keep coming back, right? Like, I mean, we were talking about Rock, like Cena, all this. Like, Cena's pushing for another sort of comeback. I think he said after Christmas or something. So, of course, we saw him tonight in the 6-man tag with Miz and R-Truth. But, yeah, so I think we can't necessarily, I think, just look at Roman and feel like he's done with all that. But is he going to have another run like that? Yeah, I agree. It's probably going to be tough to say he's going to have another title reign like that. So, yeah, but we'll see what happens. So, all right, let's get back to this, and just I'll answer this one too quickly here, Kevin. I think that's interesting. When do we see Roman next? Yeah, I don't know. Like, do we see him on Friday on SmackDown? I feel like you have to further something with the Bloodline. It did not get furthered tonight, right? So I feel like you have to do something with the Bloodline to further what's going on, and I think you have to have Roman there to do it if they're going to make the split or whatever. But if we don't see Roman on Friday, it's going to be a little strange because you may have no Bloodline, but I don't know if I would go that route. But we'll see. I feel like you've got to capitalize on what we just saw, and you've got to give that big, huge selling point moving forward. But maybe not. Maybe they hold this off for a while. We'll find out. So, yeah, I think there's lots of possibilities. All right, so let's get to some of the other stuff. And by the way, guys, if you want to leave a super chat, you can. There's a lot of comments come through. Sometimes I just miss them, not intentionally, but if you leave a super chat, you can leave it as low as whatever, the lowest amount you can leave. That way it gives me a little highlight and I don't miss these. If you are jumping in here to the channel for the first time, thank you. We appreciate you watching. Hit that subscribe button before you hop out there tonight, and check out all the videos we've done here on the channel. A lot of fun stuff. Looking at the road to WrestleMania 40 and now coming out of it. So we might start doing more of these reaction shows a little bit more frequently. So, and again, these reaction shows are just to repeat. These are the shows I do, for you guys. So I'm not just going to go through and give you every little tiny detail of what we saw on Raw because you probably watched it. And so just love reacting to your thoughts and comments and questions and all that. So, yeah. But will The Undertaker versus The Rock happen? I don't think so. I think that it was a great moment now. The more I look back at it, I'm like, there's a little disappointment that Austin wasn't there. But man, that was still a pretty cool moment. And as I put it in the YouTube short, if you guys were watching today, I said The Rock was no match. The great title, I thought. The Rock was no match for The Undertaker's gong. That's what it came down to. So The Rock could not respond to the gong there with The Undertaker, his rightful place back at WrestleMania. So Seth was not on the show tonight, of course, but I think that they need to let Seth take some time off. That's my guess, because you think about this run this guy's been on as the world champion. He was tremendous. And I think that's too. Like, we have to. I'm actually going to do a video on something about reigns, but I might even think about doing it with Rollins. Like, you think about the two runs that those two guys just went on with those two titles, pretty impressive in different ways, right? Obviously, one was much longer, but just kind of what it did to push things forward. And yeah, like really thinking back to their interactions last night, and Roman had the chance to put Cody away, but he hated Seth so much still. He could not get over what happened with the Shield. And so Roman decided to hit, Rollins in the back, take him out. It was tremendous. I thought it was just really good stuff. So, yeah, I thought it was really good. So, yeah, hey, Barry Allen, I mean, Cody's, he's doing the best work ever of his career for sure right now. Like, he's doing some great stuff. So, yeah, Roman and Seth, I mean, you could get that at some point, sure. So I think they've got to do that match again, right? Like, that's going to happen, because of how they left it in there. I think that's a great call. Like, they could do that if that's when they want to bring Roman back with that. I mean, could you imagine doing Cody versus Rock and Roman versus Seth at SummerSlam? I mean, you get your four main event guys from WrestleMania 40, and all of a sudden you put them in there with a bunch of other big matches, I'm sure, with that. So, yeah, we'll see how it works. But, all right, let me get to some of these. I'll try to catch up. I know we have quite a few comments coming in. But Do I think the Bloodline will split into two factions like the NWO? It's certainly possible. Like I said, I've called it kind of the Bloodline Civil War thing, which they know they played up. What was that last year when they did the tag team match or whatever? But I think that's what you do, right? Like you have the Rock's bloodline, you have Reigns' bloodline. You guys know my thoughts. I think Solo certainly sides with the Rock in that scenario, or maybe like again, the Rock's not going to be involved in the immediate landscape, right? Like he's not going to be here for a while. And so I'm not sure exactly how they do that without, making it very clear moving forward that The Rock is in charge of the bloodline or however they decide to do it. So maybe that puts more shine on Solo. Maybe he steps up into a bigger role. And we talked about kind of the free agent signing that is out there that's WWE has, landed. And I'll let you guys, again, I don't want to spoil anything, but, there's someone there that's going to be coming in. So, yeah, that could be playing into it too. So I think the bloodline is going to look a little bit different this time next year. I think we all can agree on that, right? And so, so it's going to be kind of interesting to see what happens. So I'll hold this question that Kevin had too on the WWE Draft. I think that's going to be interesting. So, okay. So Doug, I wanted to get back to this. I know Kevin asked it a minute ago. So let's circle back around to the whole question of what The Rock gave Cody. I did see there were a lot of kind of thoughts on Twitter, and it was a lot of theories, which I always find interesting just to look at all the different ones. The one that seemed to be the most popular was the lighter, and because that's something that's small enough that The Rock can have in his hand, he can hand over to Cody, and you don't ever see it, right? They're both able to kind of close their hands. They don't zoom in on it by any means, and that's kind of what they can hide something like that. Of course, Cody talks about like the bus catching on fire and all this stuff before WrestleMania and all that. So could it be something like that? Sure. Some people were wondering, is it the watch? A bunch of different things. I'm gonna look more into this. You guys know that I will try to do my detective like work that I do on some of these videos and try to figure out exactly what my 100% official prediction would be. But I think the lighter is a very interesting one for sure. So I'm gonna talk more about that probably this week as I start to look back and have a little time to look at it and think about what's there. But you guys also, everyone else, give me your predictions. What do you think? So, and if you are just joining, like I said, if the video goes out a little bit, you should be able to hear me, but the internet goes a little bit in and out at times when I do these streams. So it happens, but it is what it is, right, everyone? We've all been there with this. So, the moment of respect from Seth and Drew. And I heard some people talking about that today, actually, after they, Seth was very emotional after losing the title to Drew at WrestleMania last night. And he said something like, you deserve it or something. I think there may have been, a little added language in there. But, and people were like, well, did he say that because he truly meant it? Or did he say it because he knew what was about to happen to Drew? Like, he was about to get what he had coming to him with CM Punk. So I thought that was very interesting. They can play it either way, right? Like, it makes sense either way. So, Liv and Rhea, that heated up tonight. Liv had said she was going to get her revenge or her revenge tour or whatever she said earlier in the day. So, yeah, I'm not surprised to see them going back to Rhea and Liv here. Although you guys know my thoughts on this. I don't think Rhea's losing this title anytime soon. I mean, she could legitimately hold it for another year, and I wouldn't be shocked at all. So, I think my prediction would still be Jade or Bianca is probably the ones that's going to dethrone Rhea whenever that happens. And again, that could be a year or more from now. I don't know if that happens anytime soon because I don't feel like, unless they just do some kind of interference thing or they want to, do something like that. Rhea's the next Gunther in that regard. Like they want the dominant type champion, and that's what they've tried to build up. So, yeah, hey, good to see you again. Appreciate it. See some people joining in that have joined in this weekend on the live streams. And we kind of just started doing these for WrestleMania. I don't know if I'll do these every week moving forward for all the shows. I'm probably going to do as many as I can. There will be some times where I just can't, do it after Raw or SmackDown, but I may do it the following morning. We did that for WrestleMania Night 1, so we might have some fun with that. I know time zones too for everyone, a little bit different sometimes. So, but what'd you think of the show? Let me know what you thought overall of the show. I know some people said they didn't think this was the best show there was, but I mean, I think we have to also keep in perspective, like it's going to be an obvious sort of dip after WrestleMania. Like it's not going to feel anything near what it was previously. So, but I don't know. So it's just the way it works. So Yeah, here's a good question from Chris. And by the way, I'm trying to catch up on some questions here. I know I'm going to miss some, so you guys can just send them in again if you want. I'll try to find them. I think there's some common stuff people are asking about the draft. I'm going to get to this one too from Nicholas earlier. Let me get to this one first. Actually, it was a little bit earlier. Damian versus Drew. Do you think they move on and have Damian feud with someone else? Well, again, we know we're going to get the match with Damian and Jey now, right? But I feel like you've got to go with Damian and Drew, even if it's that weird dynamic of like, heel versus heel or whatever. But I think you got to do that match at some point, which you can do before Punk gets back, and maybe that's how McIntyre somehow wins the title. We've talked too, like what happens with Judgment Day. How long do they stay on the same page? Like we already know there's been simmering tension there for a while now. So when does it get to that point to where there's jealousy or whatever? We know Triple H likes to play with those little, details like that. So I could definitely see that where, somehow one of them costs Priest the title. And maybe that's how you get it back onto Drew. So, yeah, and then the Punk-Drew match, I mean, like we said, if that's like your triple main event, which I think Roman and Seth may be not sure if they do that, but think about this lineup for SummerSlam. If these were your three kind of big main events, if you did Cody versus Rock, Roman versus Seth, and then Punk versus McIntyre, my goodness, what a show that would be, just from the top matches, right? So, I mean, that could be an all-timer, just from that standpoint. So that's something to think about. But yeah, I'm curious to see what they do moving forward. So yeah, Roman Reigns could have some help based on some new guys joining the mix, or they could join the other side with The Rock. So yeah, we'll find out. So Kevin asked about Cena. Yeah, Cena did say, if you guys caught it, that was on the Pat McAfee show, I think, earlier in the day. Yeah. So he said that he wanted to have one more run after the movie schedule, which I think he said is like after Christmas. So we're talking, 8-9 months probably going into WrestleMania season next year would be my guess, is when they want Cena, to have that final run maybe. I think it's interesting, remember too, that you've still got Cena out there with the championship possibility of hanging over. Does he get that one more win? Like, do they flirt with that a little bit? Do they maybe pursue that idea? But if not, if you're looking for like final opponents for Cena, I think Cena could still wrestle for years to come, right? I mean, he certainly could do it when you think about everybody. I mean, The Rock's coming back wrestling now, so Cena's younger, so he could still do this. But if he's doing like an actual regular type run, could it lead to a match with a Randy Orton? Sure, given the history between those two. I wonder if he'd want it to be more with like someone he could put over. I mean, I guess the Theory thing, that was just different. Like, this would be a much different scenario, I think. But yeah, I think Cena, there's a lot of possibilities for Cena. So I think, it's either something like that with a proven rival like like an Orton, a Punk, someone like that, or it's wanting to put that up and comer over somehow, right? I don't know, a Braun Breaker or anyone like that, Gunther. There's lots of possibilities. We could certainly talk about that because yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. So Chris asked an interesting question here. I'm curious what you guys think about this. What's going to happen with the Wise Man now? If Roman Reigns is out of the picture, is this where the Wise Man sort of takes over? And it's kind of sort of calling the shots for Roman, and maybe that's where you get some of that order defied a little bit from a Solo to where, hey, we're not listening to the Wise Man, and that's kind of where the break-off happens, and maybe Heyman gets involved in this thing, like physically. Maybe all of a sudden you get, someone attacks Heyman. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, but maybe that's what draws Roman back into the mix. If you do something like that. So I'm curious. Yeah, that's an interesting question. Like the Wise Man, the Hall of Famer, Paul Heyman. What happens with him now, with Roman out of the picture, and The Rock, of course, out for a while too. So, yeah, but we'll find out. So, all right, I'm going to try to catch up on this here. And again, there's a lot of comments. I hate missing some of these because there's a lot of good questions. But yeah, we've got a lot to. I think this is what's important. Again, this is chapter 1 of the new story. Like, for the longest time, we felt like we were adding on all these chapters, right? Like, we're in chapter 843. But yeah, the new story has started now. They really pushed that chapter 1 between Cody and The Rock, kind of starting over here, and sort of that was all about Cody and Reigns. Rock was involved. He's there, but now things are really starting to move in a different direction, where you are kind of starting a new chapter with their one-on-one type feud. And so, yeah. But Charlotte Flair's an interesting one. Yeah, I think we forgot to mention that, Doug. We saw her, what was it? They put something out on Charlotte recently. Was it Becky? Or not Becky. It wasn't Becky. It was Rhea. That's right. They put the the video out that she had greeted Rhea or something after a match at WrestleMania Night 1. So, yeah, I think Charlotte will be back at some point, and so Charlotte will immediately go back into the title picture. We know that. So, yep, good point here too. Clash. I have to look at the schedule at this point. They're all running together. I'm like, when are these shows happening? So, yeah, you've got Clash at the Castle. So Drew winning it there. Boom, that's a perfect way to do it. I'm all in with you on that one. I think that'd be a great one. So yeah, Charlotte may be the one to end Rhea Ripley's reign. That could certainly happen too. So if they want to do that, you could do it. But it's a great question. How could Drew get mad at everyone but himself? Yeah, it's Drew. He's just delusional, right? He is just the delusional trolling heel. He doesn't want to blame anyone but everyone else. He's never going to blame himself. It's always everyone else's fault. So, yeah, I love what they're doing with Drew right now. So, yeah, but we'll see. So, all right, let me try to catch up on some of this. So, hey, yeah, thanks for joining in here. Oh, sorry, I tried to hit the wrong one. Thanks for joining in. Again, guys, I appreciate your support of the channel. Hit that subscribe button if you're new here. We do lots of videos every single day, and we're having fun doing some more of these live streams. So we'll definitely do that. Check out all the stuff we have on the channel. Yeah, we've had a lot of fun over the past couple months, and yeah, building up to WrestleMania 40, and now we built to WrestleMania 41. Let's go ahead and look a year from now, what happens. I'm going to be doing a video on that. So if you guys want to give me your predictions right now, I'm going to be doing a video on this in the next couple days. Just going to give you a spoiler. Give me some of your match predictions for WrestleMania 41. Have fun with it. Go all out. Give me some wild matches that you can see happening. Like I said, I already think you're going to, you're building towards Roman versus Rock next year. Who else is going to be? Who's Cody going to face a year from now? I know these are just wild predictions, but we love those, right? So, yeah, I think it's a lot of fun to see. So, all right, let's see. What else are we going to have here? So, this is an interesting one. So, Punk and still, Reigns can win the Money in the Bank. Rock pins Cody. Reigns cashes in. Okay. All right. Rock and Reigns are going to, that moment, whenever they finally explode, it's going to be quite a scene. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to see how that plays out once that moment happens. Again, we know it's going to happen, but as always, it's how do they actually do it? That's the fun thing. So we'll see what happens there. But so JD, Nicholas brings up JD. One thing I noted in my notes here on Raw, and I never just get through all these because I just like answering questions. And again, I'm going to say this for the fourth time. My internet looks like it's going in and out. So just listen if the video cuts out. But JD had this pissed off look on his face whenever they were walking to the ring. If you saw the little backstage thing where they're walking towards the ring before their segment, JD just looked angry. And so I could definitely see, JD being someone that really plays into this whole jealousy thing and how they do that relationship. So, yeah, maybe Heyman does reunite with Brock. Like we said, they're mentioning Brock Lesnar quite a bit now. So if anyone thought that he was officially done after everything that came out and all that, they've gone from, staying away from Brock to now they've actively mentioned Brock here over the past. Heyman mentioned him in the Hall of Fame thing. Triple H, I think fielded some questions on him maybe. I'm not sure exactly at the press conference, but yeah. So yeah, I think Brock will be back at some point soon. So I think otherwise, I don't think they'd bring him up. So yeah, but Paul, The Rock versus put the Wise Man in there in a one-on-one match with The Rock. Can you imagine Paul Heyman one-on-one? So give me the Wise Man in the ring. Solo versus Cena too. Yeah, you feel like you got to do that at some point, given everything that happened. So, that's what we thought, right? If Cena's going to make his return, it had to be for Solo, because Solo was the person who took him out before, and it was the perfect time to do it in that main event, because, Solo's about to do what he did last year to Cody, but Cena comes out, gets the help. So, yep. Damian versus Gunther next year, WrestleMania 41. I like it. Yeah, I am trying to have fun with this video. I've already started putting some things together on it, but I'm like, it's really hard beyond The Rock and Roman Reigns because there's so many possibilities. Obviously, anything can happen. It would just be, we're not making official predictions, but we just would having fun with it. So a lot of interesting ones. Yeah. So you'll probably know this. If you heard everything I've said, probably over the past month or so, I said when Cody wins the title, to me, the feud that would be the most exciting, which whenever they get to it, not saying it has to be immediately, but whenever they get to it, is going to be heel Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes. That is the one I would be most interested in, because those are Triple H's guys, right? Like Orton's his guy, Cody's now his guy. I think Triple H would have something really special for putting together that feud, all the history that's there, and you get Orton, I think, back to people want to cheer Orton now because it's Orton, right? Like he's the older guy, he's the experienced veteran. You want to cheer Randy Orton, but I think whenever we get back to getting away from that, where people can be like, all right, we've cheered Orton long enough. This guy's still Randy Orton. He's the Viper. He can strike at any time. You go all in on that. If you get the heel Orton for one of those last kind of final runs for Orton too, because we know the injury stuff with Orton, right? Like he's talked about the back and everything. And I think, yeah. And by the way, I just want to quickly mention, you're right, Barry. Like I'm not saying I would still be all in on Cody versus Rock, but the one outside of that would definitely be Cody versus Orton. I think those two right there. Yeah, you're selling a lot of tickets with those, and I think Triple H would love like the old school nature of a feud like a Cody versus Orton, which would be probably a bloodbath. Like they would go all in on that one. Like that would be, they'd take that one to another level for sure, given the history. If you have heel Orton in that one, so yeah, I would love it. So yeah, I don't think we mentioned it earlier, but Sheamus officially coming back. So. Someone may have said that last night, actually, in the live stream we did. They're like, when is Sheamus coming back? I'm like, I thought he would have already been back. But Sheamus coming back, so I thought he could be, someone, too, that could challenge for the Intercontinental Championship. That would be my guess, is they're bringing Sheamus back to the mix. I just don't see Sheamus going into that world title picture. But remember, the one title that's always eluded Sheamus, which they played up a lot, is that Intercontinental Championship. So could you think about the kind of matches we're going to get, which we haven't even talked about getting Sammy versus Gable next week in Montreal. They're going to have something big for that. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. Like, the Montreal aspect, Sammy's there. I sort of got some of those hints that Sammy may be the one that people are booing. Not in Montreal, but maybe after that. There's going to be some stuff. I think people just seem to think that Gable's going to be one that turns on Sammy, and all of a sudden that's that. But I think there's something there. But I think that's where Sheamus fits in. Eventually getting him maybe that Intercontinental Championship win. That's eluded him his entire career. Him and Triple H are boys, right? So I could see Triple H rewarding him for that at some point in the future. So yeah, I think that could be very interesting. So, all right, what else we got here? You guys share your thoughts. We're gonna hop on. We're not gonna stay on probably the full hour tonight, just because again, it's this wasn't as eventful as WrestleMania by any means. So, but we'll have a lot more stuff tomorrow, of course, on the channel with videos looking at some things from this Raw. As well, but this is just reaction. We just talk here afterwards. So, as I say, just like talking to your friends, talk wrestling, have fun with it. That's what we do. So, Rhea versus Jade at WrestleMania 41. Yeah, that was one of my predictions. I think it's Rhea versus Jade or Bianca next year. The thing is, do you get Jade ready by then? They put her in that spot tonight with Chelsea Green, which was perfect because it's just a quick squash win. That's all you have to do for Jade. But they know there's still work to do with Jade in the ring, and I think it's just how far can they get her over the next year. And I think that's where pairing her with Bianca, pairing her with Naomi, all that, she can work some tag team matches, get more comfortable in WWE's system, everything they like to do. And so, yeah, I think they clearly have big plans for Jade. I think that's one of the money matches they want to get to, and I don't think it would be any sooner than WrestleMania 41, which would be a great match if you're talking about next year. So, I'm with you. I think that'd be tremendous if they have Rhea in that spot still and they feel like Jade's ready for that kind of match, then go all in on it because two physical specimens facing off in Rhea and Jade, so that would be a lot of fun. But, yeah, maybe Cody versus Orton's a match next year at WrestleMania 41. Could be. Like I said, you go Rock Roman, Cody Orton. Yeah, there's lots of things you could do this time next year. So I think Cody versus Orton's going to be great, though, as I said. So, all right, let's see. Joey, what did you have to say? Think about Raw. Yeah, I mean, I think you're always like setting up expectations like for the Raw after WrestleMania. And like we said, boy, they were disappointing over the past several years, weren't they? At one point, it was like the most must-see event of the year. I feel like it maybe wasn't to that level, certainly. Like the opening segment was really everything, right? And keep in mind, too, for those of you who are not like maybe tapped in, especially like in the United States, they were going against like the NCAA basketball championship tonight. So, that's probably going to factor into some of the things they did or didn't do because, that's going to be probably like one of the highest rated basketball games of the year. So maybe there's a thinking there, but it's still the Raw after WrestleMania. It felt more special this year than it has in recent years for sure. But still some things. I think that you got all kind of the bigger stars there. You got Rock there, you got Cena there, Punk was there at the end. So at least you had all your kind of big players there, minus the ones we just knew weren't going to be, like Reigns, Rollins. We knew was kind of out of there. Becky, the same thing. So yeah, it's hard to match the way it used to be. But you had the NXT champions. You had Dragunov and Roxanne Perez. They both got wins, so you definitely saw the focus, them wanting to put a few more eyeballs on NXT, knowing this is probably going to be one of the highest rated Raws of the year, if not the highest rated Raw of the year. So there was definitely a clear push from Triple H from that aspect, was to make sure they get as many eyeballs on NXT as they can with the two champs. Of course, Dragunov eligible for the draft. So yeah, the draft coming up, if anyone didn't see it, April 26th and 29th, I think were the 2 dates. Starts on SmackDown, finishes on Raw. So yeah, coming up in 3 weeks, something like that. So yeah, that is where things are going to happen with the draft, and a lot of possibilities to see what happens there, because there's so many moving parts that we'll see how Friday goes this week on SmackDown. Then we'll try to figure out what they're going to do, if there are any additional like call ups or something on Friday. But the draft's going to be interesting. So we'll find out with that. But Jey into the Intercontinental title picture, yeah, I mean, let's be honest, right? There's still a very interesting match out there. If you did Sami versus Jey, I mean, there's something else you can go with for the Intercontinental Championship. And maybe, like I said, again, that's where Sami is in the heel role. Maybe they do go that direction with Sami. I could see that happening. I don't know how soon that is, but definitely Jey versus Sami is a match they could get to for a title at stake. And then maybe that's where you give Jey kind of, his first big singles title win, right? Like maybe that's what happens. All of a sudden, everyone's turned on Sami, and Sami's just vengeful and goes back to being the conspiracy theorist or whatever, right? Like Sami's played all these different characters. So, we'll find out. So, yep. But all right, so let's see what else we got. So, Judgment Day and Bloodline might be coming to an end. Might start pushing them individually. I mean, I think we know, as we said, Triple H loves the factions. He loves the stables. And I think the more the better for Triple H, because we mentioned too, what's interesting about that is like it gives you a lot more storylines to work with if you have that many people kind of tied in at once. Like you can do a lot of different matches that feel fresh. So I feel like the Bloodline's going to definitely look a lot different, as we said. Judgment Day, I'm curious to see what they do there. We know the eventual breakup's coming. It's just how quickly is it going to happen? Because they've teased it multiple times before. But now that Priest gets the title, you feel like that maybe brings the Judgment Day back together for now. But it also, as we said, adds that jealousy thing where Priest has got the championship. How long until Finn, Dominic, JD aren't happy about that? So that's because, Priest and Rhea got their own little entrances tonight, right? And so think about that. Like they were singled out because they're the champions. Everybody else, Finn, having to come out with Dom and JD, and they could all kind of branch off in their own little thing. So, yep, but we'll find out. All right, we're going to wrap up here in just a couple minutes, guys. So, again, I really appreciate you watching. Thanks so much. These are always fun, just to kind of hang out with you guys and talk wrestling. So, yeah, I appreciate you. And again, before you hop out, hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button as well if you enjoyed the show. And, check out everything else on the channel. We'll answer a couple more things here, and then we'll hop off. Let's see. So, yeah, Kevin, you got a couple things here. The Rock, Seth, and Cody, or Rock, Roman, and Seth being gone for a while. How do you see the story keep going? That's the thing, right? I've made my predictions of how I think it's going to happen in terms of like Solo turning and all that, but you got to do something on Friday, right? Like you got to do something on SmackDown. I don't think I would leave it hanging the way it did at WrestleMania 40 and try to bring it back up later. I think you got to go ahead and do something big on Friday on SmackDown, but they didn't really hit on anything tonight. So I'm curious what's going to happen. Maybe they want it to be a surprise, but I don't know. That's not really their way with the Bloodline. So we could get some announcements though before Friday that really hype up what we're going to see there. But I feel like you got to give a little bit more of a development just than Reigns losing the title. You got to give us one more step now, and then let it kind of sink in and sit back for a while and figure out, when all these guys come back together, what's going to happen? So I think they got to do something on SmackDown. Just don't know what it is. We know Cody's going to be there, like we said. So maybe that's where all of a sudden, maybe Cody's first challenger emerges, and could that be Solo? Possibility. So, so you got options. I think they do something on Friday, though, for sure. So, All right. Kevin, I'll get to this other one. The next Money in the Bank. You guys give me your predictions in the comments. I'm curious what you think about the Money in the Bank stuff because I feel like it's like so far. Like we just got out of WrestleMania. I'm like, oh man, who are going to be the Money in the Bank people? But I know a lot of people have brought up Gunther as the winner of the men's Money in the Bank. But to me, I'm like, you can do that for sure, but you're not going to definitely get like the surprise cash in from Gunther, I wouldn't think. I think Gunther will be kind of that guy who's like, I'm going to win the Money in the Bank, and then I'm going to tell you exactly when I'm going to beat you. Like, that's just the Gunther way, right? Because he's not going to back down from anybody. So, I think Gunther would be one of the possibilities for sure. Who else? Like, and that's where I'm like, I can't remember who's on the roster and all this other stuff. Like, who are they going to give the big opportunities to? I think Gunther's a really good option on the men's side. The women's side, I think to me that's where like a Tiffany Stratton would be a great choice, based on how they would want to move stuff forward with her. As one of the bigger stars, they're probably going to spotlight going into next year's WrestleMania. One of the up and comers like Braun Breaker, like we mentioned. I probably wouldn't go as far as putting Breaker like in the Money in the Bank spots. I don't know if they do that just yet, but I think Gunther's a good option for sure. So, yeah. But, all right, so let's see. I think WWE is going to keep Dakota Kai around in Damage Control. Friends and I are convinced she's still in there, only way to help them out. Yeah, I'm not sure with Damage Control what happens next, right? Like, you could definitely see them branching off a little bit. And you still got the tag champs there. But I'm curious, now that there is no, the women's title's not there, Bayley has it. I think we know for sure. Like, my guess is we're going to get like a Bayley Dakota Kai, right, at some point for that title. Makes a lot of sense that would be one of the challenges for Bayley coming up because she needs challengers too. So, I think Dakota Kai challenging Bayley would be good. And maybe, that leads to Bayley's matches with her. Maybe they do an Asuka, maybe they do Kairi Sane. So before you get kind of the Damage Control split or whatever. So, all these factions, I'm like, man, some of them got to split at some point, but Triple H loves them. So he likes keeping them together, and there's plenty of stories you can tell when you do that. So, there you go. Seth versus Punk versus DM Hunk. WrestleMania 41, the hate triangle. Yeah, a lot of hatred going on between those three, aren't there? So you could definitely make that personal with those three. Do it a year from now. Yeah, they could drag this thing out another year for sure because they got plenty to work with. So, yeah. I mean, Will, I thought that the Cody Rock segment, they announced, Adam Pearce, I think, announced it on Twitter a couple hours before Raw that it was going to be commercial free. I knew at that point. I'm like, they're using pretty much this entire hour for Cody. And I'm thinking, who is the only person they're going to put out there for an entire hour during that commercial free Raw in the first hour? It's going to be The Rock. And so, that's what they're doing. They're leaning into it because they know. And again, I mentioned earlier, like ratings wise and what they're going up against competition. They're going up against the NCAA basketball championship, but it didn't start until like 9 Eastern. So Raw starts at 8 Eastern time here in the U.S. And so they got that first hour commercial free so they can get all the eyeballs before maybe some people switched over to the national championship in basketball. So that's something they probably thought about too as they're positioning that. And look, if you have The Rock, if you know you're not going to have The Rock again for 3 or 4 months now, they're probably thinking, you know what, let's just get him as many single minutes that we can get him on our show. Let's put him on there. And so they gave him the entire first hour, basically. Not the entire. He came out, 15 minutes in after Cody's speech and Triple H and all that. So I get it. Some of these things can feel like they're pretty long, but I know why they're doing it because that's just what people are tuning in. Like they're tuning in, and the stuff has gone so well that, hey, let's just let it keep happening, knowing we're not going to see The Rock on TV now for a while. So I think that's what they were doing. But yeah, Joey, I think people earlier thought that the lighter was the popular choice based on the Cody talking about his bus catching on fire and all this. But I want to look at that one more because I'm curious if there's another logical explanation. I mentioned like the watch. That was other popular theory. So I'm gonna look into that one a little bit and give you guys some videos on it, of course, because I love playing the detective on these things. But yeah, the lighter would make sense because it fits perfectly in Cody's hand, and the watch is the other thing. But the watch, I don't know if that would be the perfect choice there. So seemed to be that. But The Rock was definitely pushing "Don't Break My Heart Again," whatever that means. We'll get back to it, I'm sure. So, All right, but yeah, we're gonna hop off here in a second, guys. Again, I appreciate you watching. Gone about 45 minutes. Had a lot of fun with this, and we'll try to do some more of these regularly moving forward. And again, I apologize if there's been any sort of delay on your side or blurriness with the video. It's just the internet. We all know how it works. So, but hey, Kevin, I appreciate that. Yeah, we've had so much fun doing this channel. It really has been more about making predictions on storylines and really diving into storylines and characters more so than anything else. That's what we have fun with here. Like, I don't get too into like hey, this was a 5-star match and all that. I like the stories, and I think WWE does such a good job now with that. It was not that way for a long time, and so we're having fun, kind of trying to connect storyline dots and just have fun with that. I mean, I love it. So yeah, I appreciate you watching, and I appreciate everyone else who has watched as well. It's a lot of fun. So thoughts on Carlito before we wrap up here? Yeah, what are I going to do with Carlito? He's kind of been the background player, but now I think he's definitely getting into this thing where you can sense after Ray picked another partner, right? They did a little, whether intentional or not, which, as I always say, I think anything you see on camera with WWE is usually intentional. You saw Carlito's reaction when Ray picked Dragon Lee, which ultimately ended up being Andrade as a partner. But yeah, I think Carlito's up to something now. You could see them kind of reverse course a little bit maybe. And yeah, so I think that, hey, Carlito's had an interesting run. I know he's kind of fell more into the background since, the Puerto Rico show and such. But hey, nice to see Carlito back. So, and then we'll end on this one, Nicholas. Yes, I was disappointed Austin wasn't there. I really thought that was the way you tie it in, but what I said too, and it made sense. Like, there are two things to consider. I said, one, I now understand why people were like, hey, The Undertaker makes sense in the spot because he is like the final boss of WrestleMania, which I pointed out earlier in the other thing I did. Makes sense. Like, he can chokeslam The Rock and get away with saying, all right, the final boss actually met the final boss, which is The Undertaker, the dead man, at WrestleMania. But yeah, like, Austin would have made a lot of sense. But I thought, if you're like, okay, Austin doesn't show up, why is it the case? If it's not schedule related, I'm like, I could definitely see Austin being the old school type guy where he's saying, I don't want to be involved because I don't want to make it about me. I want this to all be about Cody. And not saying the other guys would not say the same thing, but yeah, I could see Austin turning it down because he is kind of that old school guy where he's just like, I don't want to overshadow Cody's moment. And if you'd have had the Austin and The Rock in there, it'd have been great, like fantastic. Let's not kid ourselves. But maybe that was the thinking. He wanted this to be all about Cody, but I'm not. Again, I don't talk to Steve Austin, right? So if I did, we should get him on the channel, shouldn't we? But yeah, I think that may be one of the reasons that you could buy if that was the case. So we'll probably never know, but maybe Austin do another interview and tell us why I wasn't there. So, anyways, but Sheamus, yeah, well, we did say Sheamus. I think I would say he probably comes back and gets in like the Intercontinental title picture because I think you could have a lot of great matches. Sammy, Gable, if Jey kind of moves into that, as we said, range maybe afterwards, the world title shot. So I think that's what you do with Sheamus at this point because that's the one title that he still has not gotten, and I could see Triple H giving him that reward because yeah, that's what Triple H has done. He rewards people who work hard. And yeah, he's definitely having fun with that. And those two have always been close friends, right? They used to work out together and all that. So I think Sheamus gets that Intercontinental Championship before he retires. And maybe that's what they're doing here as he returns. So, all right, guys, I'm going to hop off here. I appreciate you watching wherever you are in the world. Seriously, I really appreciate it. This channel has sort of just, yeah, it's kind of gone a lot better than I thought. Just when I started this a couple of months ago, sorry. Yeah, your support has just been awesome, and it's kind of kept me motivated to keep doing the videos, keep doing the live streams for you guys, and I like that I've found really a fun community here just to talk wrestling with. You guys are great, and hopefully you join more of the live streams we do moving forward. Like I said earlier, we probably will not do this for every Raw and SmackDown each week just based on schedules and all that, but hey, I'll let you know when we do, and we'll do some other kind of special stuff. Of course, for the pay-per-views, PLEs, that is, we will definitely probably start doing more of these for each of those, so look forward to that. And should be having. All right, before we jump off, yeah. Perez, Austin gave you a call and said he had a date last night. Well, okay. I mean, hey, if it was a hot date, I can't blame the man for going with that instead of getting in the ring and giving another stunner to The Rock, who he's given countless stunners to before. Austin said, I got a hot date. No thanks. Maybe that's it. So we'll see. I appreciate that. But yeah, hey, I appreciate you guys. Chris, yes, Prez, this is always a lot of fun. And again, hey, leave your comments after we wrap up, your overall thoughts on Raw tonight after WrestleMania. And like I said, we'll have a lot of videos coming here on the channel moving forward. So appreciate you guys watching as always. Hit that subscribe button and like button on the way out. And again, we'll talk to you soon here at Wrestling Reaction.